intrinsic reality as the Swatantrikas claim that they are. The former would undermine the latter and vice versa. Therefore, the Swatantrikas claim that the epistemic efficiency of the sensory organs demands them of having intrinsic nature conventionally, from Chandrika's perspective, is incoherent or does not make sense. Therefore, Chandrika takes a radical stance that demands a categorical denial of notion of intrinsic nature in all possible contexts. Chandrika accepts the sensory organ is functionally efficient. Nevertheless, that the efficiency of being an epistemic instrument is not something that is intrinsic to the senses themselves. The sensory organ's epistemic instrumentality for Chandrakirti is one that derives from the fact of the atomic particles being conditioned or dependently arising as conventional truth, therefore lacks any foundation in the context of mundane practices, and being empty of intrinsic existence as the ultimate truth, therefore non-foundational in ultimate context. Both follow on Chandrika's view, since he argues that sensory organs are dominant epistemic instrument for the production of sensory consciousness, specifically on the ground of their lack of any intrinsic existence. The fact of emptiness of intrinsic existence of sensory organ, claims Chandrakirti, provides sensory organs the very basis for their conditioned existence, or existence by virtue of being dependently arising, and therefore the epistemic efficiency. Although Chandrakirti makes two conceptually separate claims, the claim that sensory organs are conditioned and the claim that they are empty of intrinsic existence, in reality, these two are not two separate claims. They are rather mutually entailing. For sensory organs to exist is for them to exist as a conditioned phenomenon, and whatever exists in virtue of being conditioned is for it to lack any intrinsic existence, therefore empty. There are several ways in which to understand Chandrakirti's defense of the non-foundationalist approach of the sensory organ and its epistemic role. What we discussed so far pertains to the arguments Chandrakirti deploys to affirm the non-foundationalism of the sensory organs as a conventional truth. Now, in the following discussion, we shall draw upon arguments Chandrakirti deploys to establish non-foundationalism of sensory organs at the level of atomic particles, which he argues constitute the basic phenomenal structure of the sensory organs. In his little-known discussion of five aggregates, Chandrakirti proposes an atomic theory, which in my understanding forms the basis of his non-foundationalist ontology, which is fundamentally at odds with the atomic theories of classical Hindu and other Buddhist schools. Here, Chandrakirti does not shy away from making bold and positive assertions that concerns Prasanga's basic ontology. Chandrakirti maintains, like any other Buddhist philosopher, atomic particles, including those that of sensory organs, are the smallest of all entities. Abhidhammikas claim that atomic particles of the sensory organs are unique particulars that are intrinsically existent, logically irreducible, therefore ultimately real. This is so because, according to the Abhidhammic ontology, only ultimately real entities are causally efficient. Therefore, atoms of the sensory organs must be ultimately real, unique particulars for them to perform the role of dominant epistemic instrument in the production of sensory perception. By contrast, all atomic particles of the sensory organs for Chandrakirti are non-intrinsic, unreal, and conventionally unreal in conventional and ultimate sense. Therefore, they are logically reducible. This follows from the fact that, according to Chandrakirti, only those entities that are non-intrinsic, unreal, and therefore logically reducible are causally efficient. The fact that sensory organs are causally efficient as the dominant epistemic instruments in the production of sensory perception is because of the fact that they are non-foundational at the level of their atomic structures. Whereas atoms of the sensory organs, according to Swatantrika ontology, are ultimately unreal, non-intrinsic, logically reducible, they are at the same time conventionally or empirically real, intrinsic and logically irreducible unique particulars. For this reason, the Swadhyantaka Madhyamaka are foundationalists insofar as they advocate conventional reality of the intrinsic nature of atoms, as the sensory organs are concerned. Whereas they are anti-foundationalists or non-foundationalists to the extent that they reject ultimate reality of the intrinsic nature of atoms of the sensory organs. This thesis is substantiated by the Swadhyantaka's defense of the intrinsic and irreducible nature of atomic particles of the sensory organs as a conventional real unique particulars. For Chandrakirti, however, the ontology of unique particulars of the Swadhyantaka is utterly incoherent in the framework of Madhyamaka's non-anti-foundationalist ontology. Chandrakirti therefore rejects unique particulars of the sensory organs in all possible sense. They are neither ultimate truths nor conventional truths. While the Swadhyantaka's posit unique particulars of the sensory organs as a conventional truths, therefore regard them as necessary conditions for the epistemic efficiency of the senses, Chandrakirti argues that they, conventionally real, unique particulars would make the sensory organs epistemically unviable for the reason that intrinsically real unique particulars would not allow the sensory organs to be causally conditioned. If the sensory organs are not causally conditioned, they cannot make, or they would not be able to make any contribution to the perceptual process. Hence, they cannot be regarded as a dominant epistemic condition. It is clear, then, Chandrakirti sees the Swalakshana ontology, or the ontology of unique particulars, as one that thoroughly contradicts the Madhyamaka's emptiness project, and therefore undermines the ordinary epistemic practices of ordinary sensory organs. The atomic particles of the sensory organs are, according to Chandrakirti, thoroughly non-foundational, non-intrinsic, and unreal all the way down, or all the way up. There is no ambiguity in Chandrakirti's rejection of ontology of unique particulars. Chandrakirti deploys several arguments to defend his thoroughgoing non-foundationalism. According to the argument immediately cited above, the atoms of sensory objects are causally constitutive entities because the atoms that structure the domains that are external to the sense organs are themselves causally conditioned particles. Since each atom is itself a composite entity consisting of at least 8 particles within it. This follows on Chandrakirti's account, since the minimum number of atomic particles required to compose an atom, as Chandrakirti clearly states in the text, is 8 particles. The 4 great elements, earth, water, fire, and air, and the 4 derivative properties, that is, form, smell, taste, tactility. The atomic particles of the bodily sense organ, forming the inner domains, are constituted by 9 particles. The bodily sense organ, in addition to the 4 great elements and the 4 derivatives. The atomic particles of other sensory organs associated with visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory sense organs are constituted by 10 or 11 particles. The 4 elements, the 4 derivatives, the sense of the touch, mental consciousness, respective sensory organs. But what about particles themselves? Could they be foundational entities existing intrinsically as simple and therefore ultimate truths? Chandrakirti's response is clear-cut no. The following arguments he advances will explain why the reasons behind Chandrakirti's negative answer. First, the 8 particles in atoms consisting of 8 particles are not intrinsically nature, he says. They do not exist individually in isolation like the seed of the pomegranate fruit. The existence, Chandrakirti argues, is rather fused with each other, similar to medical broth cooked from the peas and so forth.